Welcome to the STEM Pathways with Rohan Sharma podcast, where we dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. In each episode, we share exciting stories, groundbreaking research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today, I'll be interviewing Shridhar Jayanthi, who holds a PhD from the University of Michigan and a JD from Harvard Law School. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So to get started, I wanted to ask what made you interested in your major for your undergrad?
All right. So my major in undergrad was computer engineering. That's where it started. Um, it really had to do with what I was doing before undergrad. I was very interested in programming at the time. So these were I graduated in the end of the late 2000s, and so that was the early phase of internet. Internet as a commercial entity was I think I was born in Brazil, so I'm Brazilian. So it might be a geographic frame of reference for what I'm saying. But around 96, 97, that's when we started having access to internet, and so it was super interesting time for you to learn how to do HTML, and like CSS was a new thing at the time, how to make servers. At the time we had the thing called like CGI, um, CGI bin, which is how we used to server-side computing. And and so I had learned a little bit of C programming back in high school, and I was excited about how to try to do that in online. And so by the time I started went to college, it was a natural path for me to pick computer engineering. Um, that's pretty much how that started.
Yeah. So, what was your experience like while you were in college?
It was fun. The college I attended was one where um, it is an elite school center school in Brazil, and it was an engineering only school. So, and really an engineering school, engineering only school. Not like MIT. It's mainly engineers. It was an engineering only school. We had five majors. All five majors are engineering, and there was nothing else. And it was also tied to the Brazilian Air Force, which also added an extra interesting layer there. So it was an interesting time for me. I There were the classes, but I also had a chance to meet really really smart fellow students. Being a little station, it meant that a lot of really smart people at that age, in college age, will come, and it was a really good time to make friendships and learn from really smart people. I worked in projects with this other friends in school, and it was incredibly rewarding time. And then also during that time, we had some opportunity to do research projects because our college itself was limited in the type of research that was provided because it was five majors, mostly an education institution. Um, to do research, you actually had to go to other schools, but the faculty there was very supportive of you going outside and trying to get research opportunities either with industry or with other universities or other researchers. And so that was something I did a lot too, so doing research with either private entities, private companies in partnership, or at different universities. Towards the end, when I started Consolidate, we had a honors thesis type of thing, and I was trying to also figure out what I want to do after. I started working in medical imaging algorithms, and I was working in a hospital with like a university hospital, doing research and algorithms for medical images and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, when along this do you realize that you want to go and do a PhD?
Very early, actually. Very My dad was a scientist, so I always had this, and I understood what science meant, and I always wanted to be a scientist as well. I really liked the idea of that being my professional life, my life of the mind, if you will. So when I went to college, I was already thinking of getting a PhD. But it was really a question of what would be the details or specific program, what type of research and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, what was your research about?
Um, so my PhD was a shift. So when I graduated from undergrad, I was thinking of doing medical imaging, and that's was what was orienting myself towards. But during my during grad school, and anyone that goes into the PhD path will experience some version of that. As you move universities, you actually understand that there's a much bigger world than what you understood. in the research side, and a lot of programs will give you the chance to explore, and some won't, some do. It will depend a lot, but will give a chance for you to explore and learn about different fields that maybe you weren't thinking about. And another time I met who became an advisor, but she was a professor that was thinking her project was in this universe of research called synthetic biology. Now it's a more famous name, but at that time was pretty new, pretty niche. But the idea there was to program cells, and I was coming from computer programming background, and I was a big fan of the computing architectures in general. And so this idea of having a cell, like biology entity as a backbone for you to upper program to make programs on, like code, if you will, was a very exciting idea, and that's really why I chose that. I had no experience before. Before I worked in a semester in her lab and was trying to understand what that entailed, and then someone says like, "Yeah, I'm in love with this. I'm in love with this. Let's do it."
So, what'd you do after your PhD then?
I stayed in the synthetic biology path, so uh, defended my thesis, and I went to work as a postdoc. And as a background for people who don't know, um, postdoc are kind of they're a hybrid internship or first step in academia world. Um, it's usually a place where you are able to develop a research program before you apply to become professor somewhere. If that's what you want to do. And it's also a good space for you to explore more ideas that maybe you didn't have a chance to do on PhD, or maybe learn more than what you learn in your own lab. And so I did the postdoc on synthetic biology. My idea there was to try. Well, there were many reasons, many scientific reasons why I want to do that. All surrounded the idea of me wanting to learn more about biology and how to develop biological tools. So I was coming from electrical engineering, hard electrical engineering background, and during my PhD, I started moving towards biology. But I felt I needed more time to understand a little bit better how those systems work, get a bit better instinct about how they actually work, and also had some interest in distributed systems and pattern formation in distributed systems and how communications work there. And so there is postdoc opportunity to work on this project to develop cell-cell communication and pattern formation that was really perfect match at the time. So that's what I did, and I did that for 3 years after my PhD. My PhD was about 5.5 years, and then I did that my postdoc for another 3 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, then what'd you do after your postdoc?
Right, and after a postdoc, I had a there were two things in parallel. One, I had a little startup going on that didn't really go far, but the startup also made me ask myself, like, do I want to be a professor, or is it something like maybe I want to be a little bit do something a little bit different? And at the same time, I started thinking about other careers that were not necessarily directly in the research path. And I was actually thinking about being a science writer at the time. So I had some experience doing science blogs before, and I always liked teaching, and I was like, I had a pretty good. I was always a pretty good writer, pretty solid writer, especially like scientific writer. And um, so my plan was to be a science writer, and then I had through friends and connections and also relatives, people just basically told me, well, if you want to be a science writer, you should write patents because it pays much better. You do the same thing, but it pays much better because uh, then the client tends to care more about the value of the patent than, frankly, what the audience usually pays um, for blog posts, to read blog posts or to read scientific articles. Um, and so I started working at a patent as a patent agent. So that's the name of the job. And the job there was to write patents for clients. So you have an invention, you need the patent for the patent from the patent office. We were the lawyer, or that patent agent, not quite a lawyer, and we can get into more of that if you want. But I was the one that was writing the patents on the side. on patents for the clients, and I started doing that on the side very quickly. That became my main my main job.
And how quickly do you realize that you wanted to go to law school?
Um, I don't know that I did. To be, I think the main driver to go to law school was really a step for progression in the career I was in. So writing patents, you didn't have to go to law school. A STEM background is all you need. You have to pass an exam, like we call it patent bar. So you have to go and apply for an exam and sit for it, and you have to pass it. Um, but you don't have to go through the 3 years of schooling. And I could have stayed as a patent agent, could have an entire career out of being a patent agent. Um, but there are some reasons why you want to move forward. Some of them are just the fact that you want to do more than just writing patents. So if you want, for example, to go to court, or if you want to, for example, work on other areas of law, you need to become a lawyer, and to be a lawyer, you need to go to law school, pretty much. And then there's other career reasons. So if you're in a firm and you want to be a partner of the firm, you also need to be a lawyer. Well, yeah, basically, not 100% true, but the things are much easier if you're a lawyer. And so that was what made me think about applying to law schools.
And so you went to Harvard Law School. Oh, what do you think led to you getting into Harvard Law School versus something else?
Um, a lot of things. So anyone that wants to go to law school probably already knows that the main driver is your LSAT score and GPA. That is that's really the main the most important aspect. Everything in this on the side kind of is tangential. And and since this is for high schoolers, or maybe people early in college, I'll tell you. So having been in two areas, one being academia, engineering academia, and the other is law. There is actually this different the different universities in their admission process. Uh, they differ on how much they care about the name, or how or the brand value of the college itself. And so in engineering academia, you really care about the research you want to do, and who's your advisor. Of course, a PhD from Harvard might be, all other things equal, be more valuable than a PhD from, say, Michigan. Um, but very rarely all things are equal. Like you could easily work for an advisor or be in a research project at Michigan that's much better than something at Harvard, and vice versa. That's easily the case. Law is much more ranked and elitist environment. It sounds um, it, it's very much the case that there are some opportunities that only come if you are in some specific law schools. Very difficult to get them from lower ranked law schools. So there is a very clear rank of law schools, which are well known. Like U.S. News Report used to be one. Now things change a little bit, but the rank is still there. At least the perception of this ranking is still there. And then the application process basically is the schools at the higher ranked schools get to pick whoever they want, and then like as you go down the 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 group of students that are available, the pool of students that are available for lower ranked schools starts decreasing, and it really is very hierarchical and very elitist, for lack of a better word here. And so because this is the system, the main thing that the bigger universities are looking at are GPA and LSAT. Um, so for anyone that wants to go to law school and is thinking of going to has in mind the idea, have a loftier goal. I want to be a senator. I want to be something very big. Yeah, make sure that your LSAT's good, and make sure your GPA is up. Um, on top of that, like once those two things are clear, then you have all the rest, and you need to be an interesting person. Um, this is true not only for law school, but it's true for pretty much everything in your life. When people are hiring you for a job, or people are getting you for admitting it for college and stuff, the first concern they'll have is like, is this person going to be a problem for me, or is this person going to help me in some way? And for for a job interview, that's an easier thing to understand, right? Like you go to work as a programmer. The person hiring a programmer wants a programmer, so they want to know if you're a good programmer and if you're organized, so that whatever code you write is good for them, etc. For college, we don't really think that much in that way, right? We're thinking like, oh, am I smart enough and stuff. But but colleges are also ranked. Colleges also have a sense of what the productivity is. I mean, law colleges, law schools. And one of the things that law schools are thinking is this guy going to be able to be employed after? Like, will he get a job? Because if you graduate this guy and he can't get a job, it looks bad for us. And so that's one aspect of it. Um, and another aspect is will his be a good will he represent us well? So because you're a student, you're going to graduate, you're going to do certain things, and then your university is going to be affiliated with that. Kind of people know who graduated from law school, especially if you become famous or infamous, they'll find it through a Wikipedia link, right? And and so you want to come across as someone that's not going to be infamous, right? You want to come across as someone that will represent well, that will hold the name well, and it always helps to have a good story to tell. If there is a specific reason why I want to go to law school, um, own that story, make that story look good, make that story be readable, and of course, talk with other people that have been through the process. Use mentors, use people in your family that you know, or if you have college, maybe they're college mentors and stuff like that, and ask them just so that you right, like so that you are grounded, so you know that your story is actually a good one and not something that it, it's only good because you like only you like in your own head is great, but maybe other people look at that story and say, well, that's your story and everyone else's story too, so nothing interesting about it.
Yeah. So, what was your experience like at Harvard? And then the name of it aside, do you think it was very different versus the experience you'd get at a different law school?
I It's hard to separate. So my experience was great. I really like Harvard Law. It was a great um, great 3 years. Um, it's actually hard to disentangle the name from the opportunities that come along with it. And what I say when I mean what I mean when I say that is that just an example. Um, so as I mentioned earlier, I'm Brazilian, and so I was part of the Brazilian club at the law school, Harvard Law School, and we organized a seminar, and the type of we were able to get very important Brazilian judges to come and attend to give talks, and it's not my pretty face that did it, you know. It's the fact that I'm coming from Harvard Law School, which is a university that has a very large reputation. And so they get to say, "Oh, I spoke at Harvard Law School," right? That's something they can get to put in their resume. Or even they actually think my face is prettier because my email has like a at law@harvard.edu, right? So it's really hard to detach the name from um, the the experience that you get. And I'm talking about Harvard because that's where I went, but there are obviously other law schools that are very highly reputed will also have the same effect. Like, for sure, that's experience for people that went to Yale or Columbia or Georgetown's, name a few, out of my head. The education itself, so the class, what you learn in the class, um, I actually answer that about Harvard Law and also about Michigan engineering. It's also a pretty reputable program, pretty famous. What you learn in the class, the content of the class, kind of doesn't really matter where you are, um, because it's going to be the same anywhere. But that's not why you go to school, right? Because otherwise you can just buy a book and read it, right? Uh, so the content doesn't. It's not that it's not that. Along with the content, there are discussions and there are people that you meet. And if you go to a place where there's a lot of smart people, you'll be mentally challenged, right? You'll be having to answer questions in your own head or answer questions that are going to be raised that are going to be at a different level, and that will force you to develop more than you would if you were in a different environment. Um, and So in case of Michigan, my roommates, the people in my lab, or my professor I was working for, people in other labs, and in Harvard, like my friends at my class, right? Like the type of questions they're coming with and the life experience that they have and they're bringing in, um, make all makes the learning process more and more interesting because not only are you learning the content, the raw content, if you will, you're also learning the content in the context of a bigger world where the other people with other very smart people with other very smart ideas that will challenge you and make you think in ways that you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah. So once you graduated, what did you do?
Uh, so now I'm a lawyer. I'm an associate at a law firm, at a big law firm, and I still work at patents, but I'm working more in the litigation side. So I do a lot of patent litigation. I'm more generally an IP litigation associate. I do have work in trade secrets and other copyrights and other, not so much copyright, trade secrets, design patents, a little bit of trademark, um, which are just areas of intellectual property. But most of my job is in patent litigation. And the type of cases that I deal with are, um, well, someone has a patent, they believe that some other company is infringing on it. And I could working either with the patent owner or the company being accused of infringement, but I'll be working defending, representing one of the sides in the. In,
Yeah. And what's the lifestyle of a lawyer like? Do you have to work a lot?
yeah, yeah. Uh, it is. Yeah, it is a job that's demanding. So, oh, it's really hard to say what job isn't. So I'll preface by saying my what job. Thinking any job that you really like, and you're good at, and you're succeeding, you're likely going to have to work a lot. I still have friends from academia, and they're now becoming professors or something, and they also work a lot. So, am I working more than them? I don't know. maybe maybe there's a week I'll feel like that, and then there's another week that won't because they are working for versus I am. But it is a very demanding job. Definitely not the type of job that you can do if you don't like it. It's not. It's going to take a lot of your time and going to take a lot of your mental bandwidth. Um, and yeah, and so
But yeah. And with your job right now, what's the typical path of a lawyer look like once they get out of law school and start working?
varies a lot actually. There is the big law, what people call big law, and that is I don't know what's the good adjective for it, but that is one path. It is the path in private practice that pays the most, and it is the path that a lot of students aspire to because it's kind of like a ticket to upper middle class or a ticket for to being rich or something. And those jobs are those types of jobs you are hired an associate, usually are hired while in law school, and then you intern with them. If they like you enough, they'll call you to full time after you graduate. Um, and then you tend to be in an associate track for a few years, anywhere between 7 to 10 years, depending on law firm, depending on how you would develop and all that stuff. And then during the time you develop skills, you become better at what you're doing. That's I think that people say a lot, and it's true. The law school doesn't teach you how to be a lawyer. Law school teach you some skills, and then you actually become a lawyer when you are a lawyer. And so yeah, so then after that, and I'm still in this path, so I don't know exactly how that will look like after. But then some people go and become partners. Some people will go work for the federal government or work for the state government to become public lawyers. Um, some people will go on to work move firms, or they open their own firm, like do a smaller. Um, Instead of working for $1,000 firm, they open their own firm, and then they had their own clients and they manage those. And this is just one path. There's a lot of people that do other paths. There's really no. Um, no single path. There are people that go do work public interest, for example. It's a very very popular path. So a lot of people are going to go become public defenders or going to work with non-governmental organizations or charities that involve lawyering, like where a lot of the work requires lawyers. Um, yeah, but there's a lot of things they can do with a law degree. Um,
But yeah. And then for my last question, I wanted to ask you one piece of advice for someone who's still in high school or early in college wanting to follow a similar career path as you.
um, yeah, so my career path was very peripatetic. I never thought about going to law school until um, maybe like 6 years after I finished my PhD. That's when the first time maybe like, oh, maybe I should go to law school. Um, or actually, rather, after, yeah, no, that's right, after 6 years. So I don't know what I would have told myself, right? Because at the time, at high school, I actually hated the idea of being a lawyer, and then here I am. Um, so in terms of the of advice, I'll actually tell my advice won't be someone to not advice for someone that wants to follow my path, but really an advice for um, how to how to craft your path if you're not clearly decided on what you want to be when you grow up. First, there's nothing wrong. There's actually absolutely nothing wrong with you being in high school and not wanting to know what you want to go be when you grow up. Um, but you have some interest. It's impossible to have zero interest. You have some interest. There's something that tickles your funny. Sometimes it's things that you think, I cannot make a life out of it. Like maybe I want to be a writer, but it won't pay the bills, and that's a natural concern. But usually that's the case for all the people that don't know what to do in college or with their careers. And and I was kind of that place because what I wanted to be is like I actually wanted to do physics. I want to be a scientist, but I was in Brazil and there are no real career paths that pay well and stuff. And it's actually why I became an engineer. Uh, and so my advice there is first just know what you like. Just be honest with yourself. Don't pretend that just because you like something that is not really clear, um, you actually like something else that will pay the bills. That doesn't really work that way. That doesn't mean that you should follow that path, though. Talk with people, talk with everybody else, and try to figure out. But try to reconcile what you want to do with what career you think you should be doing. Right? There's a thing that you really want to do. Maybe that's not the best path. Maybe that's something your dad's are saying. Your dad's saying, I don't want that. That doesn't pay the bills. Pick something else. And then there's the stuff that you feel like you should be doing. There's always over reconciling. So in my case, I want to do physics. I was thinking of maybe doing like not physics, sorry, philosophy. I want to do philosophy, and it doesn't pay well, etc. I'll do engineering. I'm good at computing. But here's the thing: I like computing. I like programming, and actually, a lot of the reasons why I wanted to do philosophy is because I was thinking about what's intelligence, what is meaning, where does computing sit in this whole spectrum of being, right? Because it's not an animal, but it some ways it's thinking. I mean, now with AI, this question is even deeper. But at the time, that was what was going on in my mind. And and computer engineering seemed like a good way to reconcile it because now I'm going to be spending my time learning how computers actually work, and then at the end of it, I have the chance of understanding that and thinking about that philosophically. Um, and maybe that philosophical inclination is the reason why I went to law school eventually, why I like law now, is because law is a very, very deeply philosophical environment. Um, so yes, overall, the advice here is know what you want to do and then try to negotiate with the world in terms of what you should be doing. Um, because you want to be always doing something that you can be good at, and you cannot be good at something that you hate. You always need to have some motivation to be good at something. And so just be aware of that, be willing to reconcile, and know that the career is long. Your life is going to be very long. Whatever you decide in high school is not going to determine your life path by any means.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.